If Niccolò Machiavelli were alive today, he wouldn't be sitting in a dusty Florentine study. He'd be online. He'd be watching markets, monitoring data leaks, reading headlines before they trend, and whispering advice into the ears of the most powerful people on Earth. He wouldn't post much, but he'd know how to pull strings behind the screen. Machiavelli understood something timeless. Power doesn't belong to the strongest or the loudest. It belongs to those who see further ahead than everyone else. In a world of algorithms, influencers, and billion-dollar startups, he'd be a master strategist. Not because he's ruthless, but because he's realistic. He saw the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Most people misunderstand Machiavelli as the poster child of manipulation, the man who told princes to lie, deceive, and betray. But what he actually gave us was a manual for clarity in chaos. He studied human behavior with surgical precision. He noticed patterns, ambition, fear, loyalty, greed, and showed how they shape every decision. He didn't create evil. He simply mapped it out so leaders could survive it. In the 21st century, this mindset is more relevant than ever. Politics is fought on Twitter. Empires are built from code. Reputations rise and fall overnight. Those who fail to think strategically are consumed by those who do. This video lays out Machiavelli's modern playbook, the laws of a strategic mind. Each law reinterprets his classical lessons for today's volatile, digital, interconnected world. These are not just theories for kings or CEOs, they're principles for anyone who wants to stay ahead, to think faster, act smarter, and move in silence while everyone else is reacting. Because if Machiavelli taught us anything, it's this: the future doesn't belong to the moral idealist. It belongs to the mind that plans 10 moves ahead. 1. Know the terrain. Power comes from clarity. In The Prince, Machiavelli warned rulers never to walk blind into battle, not literal or metaphorical. A prince must have no other object or thought, he wrote, but war and its organization. What he meant wasn't bloodshed. It was awareness. The first rule of strategic intelligence is to know the terrain better than anyone else. In the Renaissance, that meant studying geography, local alliances, and rival families. In today's world, the terrain is digital, networks, data flows, media ecosystems, and economic dependencies. To win now, you need to map information, not just land. A Machiavellian thinker would build mental maps of influence, who controls what, how narratives spread, and where the weak points lie. He would look at the world like a strategist scans a chessboard, not for what's visible but for what's coming next. In politics, this means studying public moods before elections turn. In business, it means anticipating where trends will pivot before they go mainstream. In personal strategy, it means reading people's motives beneath their words. Machiavelli would see social media not as a playground, but as a battlefield of reputation. He'd analyze algorithms, bots, and public sentiment the way he once analyzed mercenaries and nobles. The key, always, is to see the structure beneath the surface. Clarity equals control. And here's the deeper lesson. Clarity isn't about paranoia, it's about preparedness. Machiavelli's brilliance was that he never assumed stability. He expected change. He knew that every system, no matter how powerful, has vulnerabilities. A modern Machiavellian mind would build dashboards of metrics, study patterns of crisis, and constantly reassess where power is shifting. When others are distracted by noise, he listens for the quiet signals of change. Because by the time everyone else sees the wave coming, he's already built the boat. 2. Fortune favors the prepared. Build before the storm. One of Machiavelli's most famous metaphors is that fortune, the unpredictable force of chance, is like a wild river. You can't stop it, but you can build defenses to guide it when it floods. In his world, that meant armies, allies, and loyal advisors. In ours, it means skills, systems, and backup plans. The Machiavellian strategist doesn't hope things will go well, he engineers resilience. He trains for volatility. While others rely on luck, he designs structures that can bend without breaking. Fortune doesn't destroy the wise, it reveals who prepared. In modern terms, this principle translates into readiness. A tech company that invests in cybersecurity before the hack, a leader who builds diverse income streams before a recession, or an artist who masters new platforms before the industry shifts. That's Machiavellian foresight in action. The lazy mind reacts. The strategic mind rehearses scenarios. Machiavelli would tell us that power belongs not to the strongest, but to the readiest. Every victory he admired, from Roman generals to Renaissance princes, came from preparation disguised as luck. What seems like good timing is often years of quiet groundwork. But this law also carries a warning: preparation must never become paralysis. Machiavelli's heroes acted decisively when their moment arrived. The balance lies in readiness plus courage, the discipline to wait, and the boldness to strike. A Machiavellian thinker in today's world builds the infrastructure of opportunity long before anyone sees why it matters. When the disruption hits, whether it's a market crash, an AI revolution, or a political storm, he doesn't scramble for safety. He smiles, because he's been ready all along. 3. Appearances rule the world. Control the story before it controls you. Machiavelli understood that perception is power. In The Prince, he wrote that a ruler should appear merciful, faithful, humane, sincere, and religious, even if behind closed doors he must act otherwise. That single insight explains half of modern politics and nearly all of marketing. In today's world, perception has become the battlefield. Reputations rise and collapse in hours. Cancel culture, brand wars, influencer feuds. These are just new forms of court intrigue. The Machiavellian mind knows this. It's not enough to be effective. You must appear righteous, visionary, and in control. People don't follow facts. They follow stories. A modern Machiavelli would study the psychology of optics, how symbols, language, and presentation shape public belief. He'd understand that a CEO's wardrobe, a politician's pause, or a company's mission statement can shift markets. He'd use the media not just to inform, but to frame reality. The battle for truth is often lost to whoever tells the best story first. That's why Machiavelli would master the algorithmic battlefield: trends, engagement cycles, viral moments. He wouldn't waste energy fighting perception. He'd design it. Every public statement would serve a purpose. Every post would align with strategy. But he'd also recognize the trap of overexposure. The one who speaks too often becomes predictable. Machiavelli valued mystique. He'd advise leaders to remain visible enough to be admired, but distant enough to remain unknowable. Mystery keeps people guessing, and when people guess, they project. In the digital age, where everyone is shouting for attention, the true Machiavellian thinker would cultivate silence as strategy. Appear rarely, but powerfully. Control your narrative, because if you don't, someone else will. 4. Ally with the strong, but depend on no one. Machiavelli despised mercenaries and auxiliary troops, soldiers who fought for pay or foreign princes. He called them useless and dangerous because their loyalty was never certain. The lesson was simple. Borrowed power is fragile power. In our age of interdependence, partnerships, mergers, influencers, alliances. This warning hits hard. Every collaboration carries risk. Every dependency can turn to leverage in someone else's hands. The modern Machiavelli would form alliances, yes, but always on his terms. He would build relationships of convenience, not dependence. In the business world, this law translates to strategic autonomy. Don't let a single supplier, investor, or platform hold the keys to your survival. The moment they control your access, you've lost your freedom. Machiavelli would counsel today's startups to diversify revenue, control their data, and own their audience. For nations, he'd warn against total reliance on foreign energy or defense pacts. For individuals, he'd say, build your network, but keep your leverage. Use alliances to grow stronger, not to replace your own strength. Yet Machiavelli was not naive about cooperation. He knew that alliances are essential in a world of power dynamics. What matters is who sets the terms. A Machiavellian strategist would always prepare an exit route, a way to pivot, detach, or even outmaneuver a former ally if the tide turns. He'd smile during partnerships but study the day after. Power, he'd remind us, should flow both ways. Or it's not power at all. Dependence breeds vulnerability. Independence breeds longevity. And for Machiavelli, longevity was the ultimate victory. 5. Understand human nature. Predict the unpredictable. Beneath all of Machiavelli's politics lies a brutal insight. Humans are not governed by ideals. They are driven by emotion, fear, and self-interest. Men are ungrateful, fickle, liars, and deceivers, he wrote. They shun danger and are greedy for gain. Harsh words, but not untrue. He wasn't condemning humanity, he was decoding it. To Machiavelli, the best leader isn't the most moral, it's the most observant, the one who reads motives accurately and anticipates betrayal before it happens. In today's world, where human behavior is tracked, analyzed, and monetized by algorithms, this principle is more relevant than ever. Understanding human nature means understanding data, what people click, fear, buy, and believe. A Machiavellian strategist would study psychology the way generals once studied terrain. He'd know that incentives move people more reliably than ideals. He'd understand that loyalty fades when pressure rises. That's why the wise build systems that assume human weakness, not perfection. In an organization, that means aligning incentives with goals. In leadership, it means rewarding loyalty and swiftly punishing deceit. But Machiavelli's understanding of human nature wasn't entirely cynical, it was empowering. Because once you accept people as they are, you stop being surprised by them. You stop making emotional decisions and start making strategic ones. A modern Machiavelli would say, don't resent human flaws, use them as fuel for design. Build institutions, brands, and policies that work because of human behavior, not despite it. That's the difference between idealists who are crushed by reality and strategists who quietly shape it. 6. Strike when the moment is right. Timing is the ultimate weapon. Machiavelli believed that opportunity is like a door that only opens for a brief moment. The unprepared walk past it, the strategic mind bursts through it. In The Prince, he praised those who acted decisively, even ruthlessly, when the time was ripe. Cesare Borgia, for instance, executed his enemies in a single day to consolidate power before the political climate changed. To Machiavelli, hesitation was death. Action, timed perfectly, was salvation. The same law applies today. The modern strategist must read the moment like a clock, feeling the rhythm of change and knowing exactly when to move. In the age of information overload, timing is everything. A company can launch the right product at the wrong time and fail. A political campaign can release the right message too early and be ignored. A creative can publish genius content after the wave has passed and vanish in the noise. A Machiavellian mind would never chase trends. He'd predict them. He'd sense cultural momentum before it explodes, and act when others are still debating. He would understand that in a hyper-connected world, advantage belongs to the one who moves first, but never blindly. The timing must be deliberate, not impulsive. And this law carries a paradox that only a true strategist understands. Patience is part of timing. Acting too early can be as fatal as acting too late. Machiavelli would counsel leaders to prepare quietly, to build strength while appearing dormant, then strike when it matters most. Whether it's a corporate acquisition, a diplomatic move, or a personal decision, the goal is to make one bold, clean, decisive action at the exact right second. Because fortune, he'd say, may favor the bold, but it only rewards the prepared bold. 7. Adapt or die, the shape-shifting mind. Machiavelli's greatest wisdom wasn't about conquest. It was about adaptation. He saw that no power lasts unless it evolves. He who changes his conduct with the times will succeed, he wrote. That insight makes him the ancestor of modern strategic thinking. In a world where technologies become obsolete in months and trends mutate overnight, adaptability is the closest thing we have to immortality. The rigid mind snaps, the flexible one thrives. If Machiavelli were alive today, he'd be fascinated by how empires rise and fall, not nations but companies, influencers, and movements. He'd study why one app dominates for a decade and another burns out in 6 months. He'd see adaptability not as compromise, but as a survival skill. He'd advise leaders to reinvent before they're forced to pivot before necessity becomes desperation. The strategist who resists change out of pride is already defeated. For Machiavelli, reinvention was not weakness. It was the purest form of intelligence. A Machiavellian in the 21st century would blend tradition with transformation. He'd use timeless principles, loyalty, fear, influence, but channel them through new mediums. Politics through digital storytelling. Warfare through information control. Leadership through culture building. He'd remind us that adaptability isn't about chasing novelty, it's about sensing what endures beneath change. The wise strategist rides the waves of chaos without losing his center. The fool, clinging to the old order, drowns in it. Adaptation isn't betrayal, it's evolution. 8. Keep emotion out of strategy. Think with cold clarity. One of Machiavelli's most misunderstood lessons is emotional detachment. He didn't advocate cruelty for cruelty's sake. He advocated clarity. He warned leaders never to let compassion cloud judgment or revenge dictate policy. It is better to be feared than loved, he wrote, if you cannot be both. What he meant was simple. Sentiment can sabotage survival. The moment emotion drives decision-making, logic collapses. In modern terms, never let anger send your email, pride write your tweet, or ego run your company. The Machiavellian mind separates the person from the position. He may care deeply as a human being, but when it's time to lead, he acts like a surgeon, precise, disciplined, unflinching. In politics, that might mean firing an ally who's become a liability. In business, cutting a beloved product to save the company. In life, walking away from something emotionally comfortable but strategically doomed. Cold clarity isn't cruelty, it's the refusal to let emotion steer the ship into the storm. In today's emotionally charged world, where outrage is currency and impulsive reactions trend, this law is radical. The one who stays calm, measured, and rational gains enormous advantage. Machiavelli would see emotion as the ultimate weapon, not to be suppressed but to be mastered. Use empathy to read others, use logic to control yourself. The true strategist feels everything but acts on nothing except reason. Because when chaos hits, emotion burns out, but strategy endures. 9. Learn the art of silence. The power of not saying everything. Machiavelli lived in an age when information was passed through whispers, letters, and spies. Today, the world runs on constant noise, tweets, hot takes, leaks, and 24-hour commentary. If he could see us now, he'd smile knowingly, because he understood long ago what most people still don't. The more you say, the less power you have. Information is leverage. The Machiavellian thinker guards it like gold. He speaks less than he knows, reveals less than he plans, and never lets his opponent predict his next move. In modern life, silence is a superpower. When everyone else is desperate to share their every thought, the person who holds back becomes mysterious, and therefore powerful. Machiavelli would use this principle in every arena: boardrooms, negotiations, social media, even personal relationships. He'd master the pause, the delay, the deliberate vagueness. People project their own fears and hopes into silence, giving the strategist control without confrontation. He doesn't need to shout to be heard. His restraint creates curiosity. But silence isn't passivity, it's strategy. A Machiavellian uses silence to gather information, to let others reveal themselves, to study patterns. He'd know that the one who listens longest often learns the most. The quiet observer outsmarts the loud reactor every time. In an age where oversharing is the norm, discretion is rebellion. Machiavelli would remind us, not every truth must be spoken, not every plan must be public, and not every reaction deserves a response. Power grows in the shadows of restraint. 10. Play the long game. Strategy is a marathon of patience. To Machiavelli, short-term wins meant nothing if they led to long-term ruin. He watched princes rise through cunning and fall through impatience. The wise man, he wrote, does at once what the fool does finally. The difference wasn't intelligence, it was perspective. The fool acts for applause, the strategist acts for legacy. In today's fast-moving world where success is measured by quarterly profits and viral moments, Machiavelli's warning feels prophetic. The one who plans for decades will always defeat the one planning for days. He would see the modern landscape, markets, politics, content creation, as an ecosystem addicted to immediacy. Everyone wants results now. But a Machiavellian thinker would operate on a different timeline. He'd plant seeds years before he needs them. He'd use temporary setbacks to disguise long-term moves. He'd understand that the greatest victories often come quietly, after years of patience. Because, while everyone else chases likes and headlines, he builds structure. The future always belongs to those who can wait for it. The long game also requires emotional discipline, the ability to endure boredom, setbacks, and slow progress without losing faith. Machiavelli admired leaders who could tolerate uncertainty and bide their time until the moment was right. In our instant gratification culture, patience is rebellion. The modern Machiavellian would turn patience into a weapon, letting others exhaust themselves while he conserves energy, watching opportunities ripen before striking. The lesson is simple. Those who rush burn out. Those who endure, rule. 11. Know when to be the lion, and when to be the fox. One of Machiavelli's most famous metaphors compares the ideal leader to a lion and a fox. The lion is strong, feared, respected, decisive. The fox is cunning, adaptable, deceptive, impossible to trap. The perfect strategist, he said, must be both. Power without subtlety is brute, subtlety without strength is hollow. The lion enforces, the fox survives. In our world of competition and exposure, this duality is essential. Sometimes you must confront directly, other times you must maneuver quietly. The art lies in knowing which mask to wear and when to switch it. In business, this might mean knowing when to make bold public moves, acquisitions, innovations, declarations, and when to work quietly behind the scenes. In politics, it's knowing when to appear firm and when to compromise. In personal strategy, it's knowing when to assert dominance and when to disappear until the timing favors you again. A Machiavellian thinker moves fluidly between these states. He can roar when needed, but more often, he smiles and listens like a fox, planning 3 steps ahead while others are still reacting. This balance, strength and subtlety, is the essence of true power. Many fail because they commit too fully to one side. The lion becomes arrogant, the fox becomes timid. But the strategist who masters both plays the entire game. Machiavelli would tell us, "The world doesn't reward purity, it rewards balance. Be bold when others hesitate. Be cautious when others charge." That dual awareness, the ability to embody contradiction, is what separates leaders from followers, rulers from dreamers. Conclusion: the Machiavellian mind in the 21st century. If Machiavelli walked among us today, he wouldn't be shocked by the modern world. He'd feel right at home. Social media warfare, corporate rivalries, political spin, and the constant struggle for attention would all look like Florence reborn in pixels and glass towers. What would set him apart is not cruelty, but clarity. He would see through the noise, strip away illusions, and focus on what always matters: control, timing, and perception. While others chase trends, he would chase truths, the permanent laws of power that never change. To think like Machiavelli today is not to be ruthless, it's to be strategic. It means building systems that outlast emotion, preparing for chaos instead of fearing it, and treating foresight as a daily discipline. His laws for a strategic mind are not guides to manipulation, but to mastery, over self, over circumstance, and over the unpredictable game of human behavior. In every century, those who see further lead those who see less. That's not cynicism, that's vision. In the end, Machiavelli's genius lies in a single timeless principle. Power doesn't corrupt, it reveals who was thinking ahead all along. The modern world rewards those who adapt faster, plan deeper, and act with purpose, while others panic. And if there's one legacy he'd leave us, it's this: the future doesn't belong to the loudest or the kindest. It belongs to the clearest mind in the room.